Just going for a little walk with the dog. I'll show you my dog here, Hippo. If you're listening, you can check it out on Facebook. We're just going for a little walk around the streets here. The poor guy, a bit of exercise. He likes to run around. He's a bit like me, he's a bit crazy. Always moving. So, the next interview that is going to be shared and coming up, if you are listening, is with a woman called Charlotte Carr. And she wrote a book called Bubba Yum Yum. And that was all about clean, healthy eating for kids, which apparently was like the most craziest concept of all time. It was in the national media. She co-authored the book with Pete Evans. A lot of you will be familiar with Pete Evans' work, particularly if you're in Australia here. And yeah, I mean, it's a great book. It's got so many cool recipes in it for kids. It's all about just clean, healthy eating. You know, it's basically paleo-based. So no sugar, no dairy, no wheat. And here's the crazy thing. We've got all these supposedly health experts chiming in about the dangers of this book. For what reason? That, you know, what they're promoting to not feed your kids sugar, dairy, and grains. I mean, it's a crazy, crazy world we live in. The reality is what you feed your kids makes a huge difference to their health, their behaviour. You know, so you can either stick your head in the sand and, you know, think, oh, no, whatever, it's just bread, it's just sugar, whatever. But the reality is, my friends, that what you feed your kids on a day-to-day basis builds up. And, you know, a lot of people will say, oh, it's just one time. You know what? Well, it's one time every single day and probably multiple times through the day. So, you know, sometimes, of course, you're going to have the instances where your kids aren't going to be able to have the best food ever. They might be out, they might be at a friend's house, whatever. But when you're cooking and when you're creating the food for them and you're feeding them, you have all the choice in the world to feed them the right things. You can either feed them things that are going to fuel them and, you know, make them strong and healthy, or you can take the easier option in the short term for the harder option in the long term, because kids who aren't getting the right nutrients, aren't getting the right minerals, who are exposed to certain things that are damaging their gut, like grains that aren't prepared properly, like too much sugar, they're going to have all these health problems. Their immune system's going to be affected. They're going to get sick more. They're going to have, you know, skin problems, all of these things. So have a listen to the episode with Charlotte Carr. Have a look at the book that she's got. You can either buy it or you can download it on the e-version. We'll have the links as well. And, you know, just start small. And that was one of the things Charlotte did talk about now, that when she's coaching with women and mums in particular, obviously, that, you know, she really does just say, hey, don't be so hard on yourself. You know, we're all trying to do the best job that we can, but there are small changes that we can make on a day-to-day basis and see, you know what you can do today that's going to be better than yesterday. You don't have to do it all in one go. Something's better than nothing, but, you know, if you want to make sure that you're providing healthy options for your kids that they actually want to eat, this book's really great because it's got such good, nice, healthy recipes that taste great as well. It looks good. The kids really do enjoy it. We've been feeding our little girl Charlie this type of way for, you know, since she was born. So looking forward to sharing this episode with you. I'm Dr. Trent. This is the Innate Doctor Show.
In search for the cause of health, not disease, the Innate Doctor will be interviewing elite athletes, health professionals, scientific researchers, authors, and high-performance coaches to help understand where health actually comes from. If you want a simpler understanding of health, happiness, and longevity, you've tuned into the right place. You're listening to the Innate Doctor podcast, and here's your host for this life-changing episode, Dr. Trent Headlam. Have fun getting healthy.
And welcome to the Innate Doctor Show. This is your host, Dr. Trent Headlam, and I am so excited to have our guest on today, which is Charlotte Carr, or Bubba Yum Yum. Charlotte, where did that name come from?
Look, it's a really good question, Trent. I don't know. I've got a debate with my husband at the moment, thinking it was my genius idea. He reckons that we were standing in the kitchen one day, and it was amongst the time where we were feeding Willow, and he was in a feeding frenzy as per usual, and he was like demanding food and tapping his hand on the little high chair kind of seat. Like, he just wanted his food so quickly. And we were like, what could I call this thing? And Wes had just said, you've got to do this Instagram account. And he told his, someone he was working with, I've got to do this children's food blog because we were learning so much at the time. And I was like, maybe Bubba, Fun Yum, and he was like, yeah, Fun Mummy Mum, and we went about back and forth, and we're such creatives in that, he's from a artistic musical background and a genius kind of creative singer-songwriter, and I'm from the more advertising background, acting background, and we're trying to work out how it would sound really great. And then he reckons that he said Bubba Yum Yum. And he reckons I said, yeah, that's a great idea. What do you think about Bubba Yum Yum? And he went, no, I just said that.
It always works out that way.
It's very typical of our relationship to have that argument around that title. But I'm happy to say and credit my husband that perhaps he came up with it, but I feel like I did as well.
Nice.
But it slips off the tongue. I love it, and it kind of means to my mums and to anyone who hears about it that it's just a really friendly, beautiful, baby, toddler-based kind of branding, which is what I wanted.
Yeah. No. Well, I love it.
Good.
So Charlotte Carr, for those of you who are listening who aren't familiar with Charlotte's story, she's one of the authors of the amazing book Bubba Yum Yum, which is all about healthy, real food for your kids and babies. And it's a phenomenal book, and it's available on an ebook at the moment, and it will be released in hard copy at some point, won't it, Charlotte?
Yeah, it is. And it's also available now through hard copy through the States. But unfortunately, with our dollar and their dollar, it's not great in terms of buying it and getting it sent to your house. And I understand that too, being a mum and all the expenses that you incur and with toddlers and stuff. But, we're in negotiations right now with the distributor. So once they get back from their holidays, they've been away for most of the beginning of this year, we'll have a better idea about distribution as well.
Oh, fantastic. Well,
yeah.
If there's anything that we can do to help to get out a bunch of copies to Australia, we'll do that.
Yeah, look, the funniest thing is our major demands have been from doctors and practitioners, which has just been lovely. I have orders in my email saying, can we get 500? Can we get 1,000? Can we do this? Which is just lovely, and particularly from the doctors, like GPs across the country, just saying that we've seen the book, it's absolutely beautiful and safe, and we can't believe the hoo-ha, and we love it so much. Can we get, umpteen copies? And it's amazing.
That's
really
awesome.
proud of it.
Isn't that great when you have that much support behind it? So we'll get into the hoo-ha of the book a little bit later in this conversation, Charlotte. So the other authors on this book were Pete Evans and Helen Patterin. Did I say that correctly?
The beautiful Helen Patterin, yes.
Yeah, and so what was everybody's contribution to this, to the Bubba Yum Yum book?
Okay, so sure. Pete's the visionary. He's the guy that, and he's got such a purpose and intent with changing the world, and God bless him, he's the one that powered this through. And he knew that I had a little bit to do with lowering inflammation and changing my little boy's life, albeit, that's actually how you could describe it. I changed his life in terms of how we I approached his healthcare when he was younger. And so much of that was to do with his diet and his gut and the gut health and changing his gut health and implementing foods that were low inflammation. And he knew the whole story. So he approached me and said, hey, would you like to write a book alongside this brilliant naturopath and nutritionist? And she's been working with pediatric and, amazing work with children for a long time, 14 years, and her name's Helen Patter, and she's brilliant. And I'd heard of Helen in my research when we had all this stuff going with Willow. And so I was like, oh my God, I'd love to write a book with her. And so be it formed the little relationship between Pete, Helen, and I, creating this gorgeous book that is just filled to the brim with nutritious recipes for children. And I guess when you look at my contribution, mine definitely was as a mother, having gone through what we went through with Willow, knowing that we needed such nutrient-dense food in his diet and not knowing probably how to get it in there and working out how to get it in there simply in different food, beautiful food choices and throwing in a certain ingredient into a dinner that would change the course of our whole night's meal and putting great probiotic dense foods into his diet. And I became really good at looking at a plate and understanding what was missing and how we get more fats in there to fuel him and great, probiotics and good fats and things like that. So I guess, I wrote lots of the recipes, and as did Pete, and Helen was really amazing at the beginning of the book in terms of setting it up, in terms of prenatal care and what's necessary and screeners you can do for parents that want to fall pregnant and what might be a problem that you need to overcome and address before you want to have babies, or if you're pregnant and you think it's too late but you still want to help, it's not too late at all. You can just add in certain things to get yourself fully immersed in the health and wellness of your baby and your baby building.
Yeah,
it's
important because this book isn't just a recipe book, is it? It does really go into some fantastic information about wellness in general. And yeah, as you said, women or partners or couples who are having difficult time conceiving, there's information not only for the women but also for the men. It isn't just a cookbook.
It isn't just a cookbook, and I'm so glad you said that, Trent, because I've had so many emails back from parents, and it's really beautiful how many men I've had contact me saying this has been the book that I've been waiting for, which I just think is just beautiful because they said, I feel so overwhelmed or emasculated in this process, and it's just so gorgeous. And, it's a place where they feel like they can step in and take over in the kitchen or provide or nurture or heal. And that's been really beautiful as well. But you're right, it is a process. It's not just recipes. There is so much there. And we all thought, Pete's had babies and Helen's going to have babies soon or at some stage. And we all know, what is that book? What does it feel like that you want to read, or what did you miss that you didn't get in that process of being pregnant? And we applied that to the book, and that's what that whole book is. And yeah, we're so chuffed about it. We're so proud of it.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, no, I love it. And so, would you mind just chatting a little bit about the story of Willow and how really this all came about? I think listeners would love to know, what actually happened with Willow and his health, and why did you have to start this journey?
Sure. It's really interesting, Trent, because someone asked me about this the other day, and because we're so through the journey now, I was like, I can't even really, remember that. Whereas a year ago or 2 years ago, I'd be like, I'll tell you about it, and I'd be in tears, and it was so raw. But it feels like a memory now, which is just due to the work and implementing the things that we know with health and wellness, what we can, and all the modalities that we've used on Willow, that he's so vibrant and healthy now. But, when he was born, I think I went to 42 weeks and he was a breech baby, and I tried to birth him naturally, and we went about 9 nights through contractions, and then finally we tried to turn him as well. And he wouldn't turn. We did everything, acupuncture, standing on my head, upside down for weeks. And we just had that scenario where he wasn't turning. And they called for an emergency C-section at 42 weeks. So we were kind of on the back foot from the get-go. I guess in a nutshell, he was not terribly settled. the best way I could describe it was that he felt like he was out of his body, hyperstimulated, and it was brought to our attention around, I can't remember the weeks now, but maybe 10 or 12 weeks that he was stimming. And for those that don't know what stimming is, it's on the autistic spectrum where it's like a repetitive movement where he would open and close his eyes and lick his tongue and touch his fingers on his tongue. And, it's so funny saying this because it's such a memory now. He doesn't do any of this, but he was really hyperstimulated and his guts were an absolute mess. I would feed him and he would scream and he would scream and he'd scream and he'd scream. And to be completely honest, like if we're going to talk about his health, you can tell so much about someone's health by their poo and their stool. And I know he was my only baby and I didn't want to overreact, but I just didn't know because his poos were black and they stank and they were awful and they were like water. And it took me about a year until I saw a doctor and said, is this normal? And she looked at me and she said, oh my goodness, no, it's not. And she held him, hand over her mouth because it smelt so bad. And it was obviously had a lot of toxicity and it wasn't until we saw the right integrated practitioners and got the right team on board that we understood what was going on with him. He's sitting there tapping his head, licking his tongue, open and closing his mouth, tapping his cot all night, not settling, screaming when he was feeding. That, a year down the track, after all these test results, we got a bioscreen done and we realised that he had, which was done by Helen Patterin from our book, he had not one strain of lactobacillus in his gut, which meant he had no, good bacteria in his gut. He had toxic levels of strep and other things in his gut that were just going to cause him havoc anyway. Dinoamoeba species, Giardia, all these things going on. So his little guts were just an absolute mess, and his nervous system was also kind of kaput. And he had mercury in his blood and in his levels, and it was just like I just didn't know why it would be there or how I'd played a part or how this could even be happening. I had dreams of feeding him until he was 2, and I fed another baby that was surrogate when my feeding experience with Willow stopped because it got so horrific for him. It got so bad, and, I've met a few mums since then that have gone through the similar thing, and it's truly heartbreaking if you have a certain plan for feeding your children a certain way and it's taken away from you, or you feel like a failure around that. So I've done lots of work around that as well because, it's not something and I've no problem with how any mother feeds their child. You've got to do what you've got to do. But, my intention was to breastfeed him for a long time, and that didn't kind of play out the way I wanted to. So, that was an obstacle as well. So, we've all gone through a lot during this experience, but we're also very lucky because we haven't had a chronically ill child that's been in hospital, and we haven't had any major drama around health and wellness except for the fact that we've had I guess you'd say a child with a compromised immune system and a neuro system that's very heightened. And, that kind of makes sense too because I've had fits in the past with epilepsy, and my husband has battled a lot of anxiety and depression, and I think all those things, if you really start doing some research into gut bacteria and health and the neuro system, it's all kind of part and parcel.
Yeah. And a lot of people don't realise the implications that occur after a C-section due to obviously there's multiple things going on there, but the two big ones, the kids don't get the bacteria as they're coming out, the beneficial bacteria, and then also there's 20 to 30 pounds of pressure that are going through the child's neck as they have to pull the child out. It's not just they slip the baby out through the incisions that they make, and so all C-section babies have trauma to the neck and the skull, which then puts pressure on the nervous system, which can, drive them into that hyperstimulated state. And then they don't have the good bacteria in their gut. And, then, of course, the recovery for mum, that can be 6 weeks, really, before, you would be able to speak about this more than me, Charlotte, but the recovery from a C-section, and then, you're obviously not able to pick up your baby as much in that first bonding session, and it's that snowball effect, isn't it?
I will not be clearer in saying that I was not for 10. Like, I don't even know, I can't even describe the pain that I went through, and also I will attach failure to that completely, because I wanted this natural birth so wholly and completely, like, you name it. I had done every course, the natural birthing course, the oil course, the massage course, the hypnotherapy course. I just wanted it so bad. And it's so funny what you get presented with. And I found the recovery so hard, and I found it's so tough. And I'm a working mum too, so I was back to work really early. You've got to take time to recover. It takes a lot of time to recover, and the fact they're not getting that bacteria is massive. And there is a huge lot of research going into the fact that right now a lot of doctors in America are trying to prepare the baby that are going through the C-section by doing a swab of the mother's vagina and giving them the good bacteria in their ears and their eyes and swabbing them with the gauze. And I think that is just such an amazing thought process, or a step in the right direction for getting that bacteria into them. And of course, it's the other side of the argument saying, who's to know what that bacteria is doing? And I've read all those articles too. But there's no doubt that having had a C-section baby and having the experience of the pediatricians that I've had, and the one-on-one that I've had with doctors and GPs and pediatricians that have all noted, I've had a C-section baby, therefore my child will have, less, perhaps a more compromised gut system than that one which is born out of vagina. It is proven that that's the experience that is given with a vaginal birth versus a C-section. And
I think the research
you are so right.
is clear, yeah. Isn't it?
Yeah.
And with my clients, who particularly mums, and they've got kids, either young ones or more older kids or teenager kids, depending on their age, I'll always say, so I see that you've got 2-year-old little Jimmy. So he was C-section. Did he have a lot of ear infections or tonsillitis, allergies, things like that? With anyone, I mentioned, who has had C-sections. And of course, 9 out of 10 times it's like, oh my God, yes. How did you know? And it's like, well, it's not coincidence.
Yeah, look, it's going to be so interesting, and it's going to be, I haven't had another baby since Willow, but it'll be so interesting if I get to have that experience of a VBAC. And my goodness, I'll be verbal in the experience of that, because and I love talking to women who have done both the C-section and the vaginal birth to discuss that and talk with them how the gut has changed, or how the immune system or the immunity has changed, or the experience of health and wellness has changed between the babies. It's fascinating.
So going into your, next pregnancy, if and when that happens, Charlotte, what would be the main mindset shift that you think you have, that you have now, that going into a new pregnancy compared to the first one? What would be the main shift, do you feel?
Trent, it's such a great question, because I thought when I had my pregnancy with Willow that I was really well. I thought because I hadn't had any alcohol and I was completely sober and, wasn't having many, to be fair, it was a fairly primal diet. But what I hadn't done is the prep. I hadn't looked at the metals that may have been in my body, and I hadn't looked at my gut bacteria, and they're two of the main players in my child's health. So and to do the simple testing of the MTHFR, the bio screens, which you can get through your naturopath or doctor, and things like that, to truly understand, besides the blood work, what was going on for me. So since then, I've done a huge parasite cleanse, a huge kind of chelation therapy in terms of trying to pull out the heavy metals that were in my body that may or may not have affected Willow. And I'd probably be gentler on myself as a mother and a woman and not expect perfection and understand things change their course, and that having a C-section doesn't make me a failure. It simply makes me a certain, we changed course and that's just the way it is. And having desperately wanted this natural pregnancy, when Willow was born, there was so much failure attached to it that I wasn't able to really appreciate the fact that I had this beautiful, gorgeous, healthy baby in my hands. And I think there's a lot of that going on with mums, and I say to mums, whichever way you go, you're loved and supported, and it's such an amazing experience, and that you're a goddess no matter which way you do it. And just know that you're fully supported in your community, and if you're not, then that's not your community. Like, you've got to find the people around you that are going to look after you, and find your practitioners that are going to help support you to recovery and to health and wellness and lead you there. And that would have been beautiful to know back then. Because I beat myself up heaps. Like, you can't even imagine the tears that I shed and the failure that I felt around only. I breastfed, I think, Will's for 3 or 4 months, and then another baby for maybe 1 month. And I just felt terrible about myself, and there was no need to. That's an amazing thing to do, and it's all magnificent, and it's all incredible part of, procreation, but there's so much more to it than that. There's the love and the kindness and the affection and the nurturing and the mindfulness around it that even goes deeper and deeper and deeper. But yeah, that would be my they would be my points. To be gentle, to if you think of your body like an onion, keep peeling away those layers until you get to the core, and do that work, from a very, I guess, a sciencey background. You look at the bioscreen, you look at the bloods, and you look at the hair samples or the metal toxicity, because that was so incredibly important to my experience with Willow, with what came up with for him. It was all in his bloods and his the metals that were in there, and his toxicity in his gut. And if I'd done that work to just clean that up, then perhaps we would have a different experience. But also in the knowingness of knowing that if it turns out a different way and you've got to go down a different route, it doesn't make you a failure. Certain things happen and you're loved and supported regardless of that, and just find your appropriate practitioner that's going to support you and help you heal, and always know that just keep going in the direction that you're wanting to go in, and it's not definitive. And if someone diagnoses you with a certain something, then that's okay, and you just do the work there and work with the right team of doctors and integrated practitioners to get you through your next hurdle, to go to the next stage, so that you can create beautiful, thriving, robust little babies.
I love it.
Yes.
I think it's such an important conversation, Charlotte, that you're bringing up there about this overwhelming mother's guilt that is, I'm not sure if it's something that's worldwide, but so prevalent in the Western world. Maybe it is worldwide. For us, we had such really just an amazing pregnancy, and fortunate, doing the work that I do. I knew what we sort of needed to do to prep for the bub, and for our first one, and falling pregnant was an issue. The pregnancy was great. The midwives still tell us that they still brag about what an amazing birth it was. But then at about 9 months, and then through Charlie's first year of life, I mean, she was just such a thriving beautiful girl, and really just such an amazing, healthy being. But then about 9 months, or when Charlie was 9 months, my wife Jill got quite ill with a giardia that she'd picked up somewhere, and she got really quite sick, and I was working, she was looking after Charlie, and really looking back on it now, I feel so bad saying it, but I actually didn't realise how sick she was. And I would come home and Jill would just be on the floor with Charlie, basically laying down, quite obviously in pain. And she just really didn't say much. It would just be like, well, hey babe, how's things going? Yeah, good. Charlie's good. I'm just tired.
There's a lot of shame around it, Trent. I don't know whether or not we're wanting a medal for being the best or the greatest. And giardia is a nasty thing. I've had it. Wills has had it. I think Wesley may have had it. We went to Vanuatu and all picked it up. It was just, it's a debilitating kind of nasty little bug. It's a virus. But the issue there is that we just want to soldier on, and we just want to be so strong, and it's okay, and have permission. Find your people where you have permission to say, I'm not okay. I'm feeling really low, and I just need a little bit of help. But we're not doing that. We used to do it as tribes. We used to have all our periods at the same time and share our experience of mothering and breastfeed together. And if there was lack of milk with one, we'd pass it to the other. And I think there's something so incredible about that. And we possibly could try somehow to go back to those principles of nurture and care and community. We might not necessarily physically be able to find it in this world. I hope to God we can, but if you can't, there are communities out there that you have access to online or wherever they may be, where you find your people that are helping you speak your verbal truth. Because if you keep it all in like I did, I got lockjaw after Willow. I couldn't even open my mouth. I had to have treatment to just help me open my mouth because I was in lockdown, literally in lockdown. And so ashamed by what was playing out in front of me. My beautiful mother, had 5 natural born children, and all big babies too. And I really associated my C-section with failure. It's amazing, isn't it? Where she never ever, she'd die if she heard me think that. She'd just be so upset.
Yeah, with that. Yeah, it's a real problem that we have with the beautiful mums that we have, who are just trying to do their best, but are silently really suffering. And so I don't know what the answer is, but our story ended in that we tried to go through the more natural route, and we were doing some herbal stuff and remedies and some supplementation and working with an integrative medical doctor to help heal the giardia. But at the end of the day, it just wasn't enough, and so we ended up going through, or Jill ended up taking antibiotics for it, and that helped significantly with her symptoms. But at the same time, her milk supply basically ended, and so.
Well, it's because she would have been in complete fear and all other stuff that you like. There's nothing wrong.
Yeah, well, that's right. And so by the end of that, at about 12 months, when Charlie was about just a year, Jill just stopped breastfeeding, and I know that we were supplementing at that point with formula, and then she just stopped, and she'd stopped for about 2 weeks, and I knew, but I didn't want to say anything. And then one day I just said, hey, did you breastfeed Charlie at all today or this week? And she's like, no, I stopped 2 weeks ago. I'm like, okay.
It's a really, really bizarre thing that's going on, and I think that I'm going to do some research into it or work on it in some manner with my work that I'm doing at the moment. But, you know, it'd be lovely to see a bunch of women in a room, one breastfeeding, one bottle feeding, one C-section, one vagina, but all just loving and supporting each other with whatever they've got, with whatever circumstances they have. And you know, I'm the first person to put my hand up when I hadn't had a baby, and I knew I was going to have a vaginal birth, and I knew I was going to breastfeed for years. And to see my life play out the way it did, I've eaten my words for years, just eaten them. And I think there's something that needs to change somewhere along the line. The conversation needs to be started about the innate acceptance and you know, around what mothers are doing and what mothers are choosing to do, how they feed them, and everything we've ever set up to do with our book was all just about options as well, not about didactic or totalitarian what you should do, just choices. Yeah. And that's what I want. That's what I want my whole work to be. And it is certainly my work that I do with my mums. I've got women around the world that I coach, and it's not until they get on the call with me they just relax and go, "Oh, I thought you were going to say this, and this," and it's like, "Oh no, let's all just take a break and start loving and just work from there and find the right people around us, the right doctors, the right practitioners." Everything, so we can and do the deep work so that we can all just heal and move forward towards wellness. And I think that's the deep core issue here.
Yeah, that's great. It's so important. The formula that we started feeding Charlie once Jill wasn't breastfeeding anymore was a recipe that it was a raw formula recipe that we got from the Nourishing Traditions book. The author's name escapes me now, but fabulous.
Sally Holland.
Yes, perfect.
Yeah.
And I mean, and so this was pre your book being launched, and so we'd been feeding Charlie on the basically a similar type recipe that you guys were going to release in the book, and then for like 6 months or something like that. I can't remember how long exactly. And then this all came out when your book was being released, and it's on national TV, this formula recipe that's going to kill your babies. And my wife and I are sort of, you know, joking between ourselves. It's like, she still looks pretty alive to us. You know, we've been feeding her this formula recipe for a while now, and she seems to be doing all right.
Yeah. Look, it's amazing what's happened, and, you know, we've got to go back to our facts, which are the fact that it's been printed over 500,000 times worldwide, the recipe that we use, but we had appropriated it so it didn't have as much liver or vitamin A in it. And also, it was a really amazing thing to be able to be brought to our attention that the rules here are different to America, and so we can't just place another person's recipe in our book. There are laws here. Well, in saying that, there are other books in Australia with the exact same recipe printed in them as I speak right now that have never been touched. But it's just, you know, I don't know. It just came down on us. But we had to change it for various reasons of our laws that are set up. And I can just only go on the experience that I have with my child. So, you know, I probably would have been lost without it.
Yeah. And what's your favourite recipe in the book, Charlotte, that you guys have done?
Goodness me. Look, Trent, for the first 2 years of my son's life, we would have been lost without our broth recipe.
Cool.
I know that it's just a really standard stock recipe, but for the healing that needed to occur for my son, I kind of bowed down to that one, because if I didn't have it, we would have been in a different situation. We've done so much work to repair his gut, and I know that's to be part of it. But, I mean, I can't pick a favourite because, to be honest, there's 80 or so in there that are just kind of brilliant. And I still use them today. I still use them when my friends come over or my family. I use them in our family recipes. We're always, if we're not making a smoothie, we make them into ice creams, or then I'm making muffins, or then I'm making dips, or then I'm doing fish and chips or chicken and chips. It's just like the Bible for children's food, which is just lovely. So, yeah, I bow down to the broth recipe simply because, and in saying that, we don't need to use as much now, Trent, as what we were using. I was having to make a lot at one stage, and now we just make up one a week and we just use it to cook with. And it makes everything taste brilliant, just like it has in restaurants for centuries or years, where they use a master stock to make all their vegetables and proteins taste so much better, and they cook with it. But it's simply been so important for our healing of our little boy's gut. So I guess I kind of adore that one for that reason.
Great.
But then there's a lot of others, but just because they're fun and playful and easy and finger foods that all mums love. So, yeah, love that too.
Yeah. And what's been the how have dads reacted to this book?
You know what? I have been blown away. A lot of my Instagram followers are dads that are tagging me on it and just loving it. And they've just been so. I don't know why I didn't expect it from them. It's wrong of me to even consider that, because dads are so hands-on these days and so available to cook for their children. And, with the work schedules changing with parents and freelance and part-time and all that sort of stuff, I get so many dads contacting me saying, love this, great for me. I made double, I had my serve, which has just been great. And it's, it's easy food.
Yeah, that's awesome. And so, yeah. Charlotte, you're working with mums all over the world. What are some of the other health strategies, I guess, that you're using with Willow right now in terms of practitioners that you're utilising to help improve his health, and that you're recommending to other mums around the world to try out?
Yep, Willow has an integrated doctor. He's magnificent, and like a kind of does biomedicine with him, and we're keeping a track of what's going on with him in terms of metals in his body or things in his gut. So we do bio screens with that. We have Helen Patterin, who's our naturopath. I'm the luckiest girl in the world to have her as my naturopath, and she just keeps a close eye on absolutely everything. Helen and I wrote the book together with Pete, and I'm spoilt in that sense that she's just watched and healed Willow, and I'm very thankful to her. She's one of the greatest friends I've ever had in this lifetime, so I can't speak higher of one woman in my life. And then we have our gorgeous Rosemary, and she's our Carr practitioner, and Willow sees her once a fortnight, or if he doesn't need to see her once a fortnight, she will see him when she needs to see him. She's incredible Carr practitioner up in Noosa.
Mm-hmm.
And
that's Rosemary. What's Rosemary's last name?
Oh, I know her last name.
That's all right. Us chiropractors always go by doctor first name anyway. That's probably why you don't know.
Rosemary. Let me think if I've got her in my phone. I'm going to look at it. She is magnificent up in Noosa, and Willow just adores her. But before that, we've had Polly Wilkie looking after him in Bondi Junction. And,
he was the previous chiropractor, was he?
Polly and Marie both at the Bondi Care Clinic.
Yep.
And they were magnificent. They picked on to things that no one else did, They were just, kind of brilliant.
And Charlotte, for mums and dads who are listening who don't quite get why a child might benefit from having chiropractic care, or that they might think that it might be scary or dangerous or something, what's your experience with chiropractic and babies and kids?
Look, I I actually, I can't say a bad word about it because I've had the best luck because I've always gone by my doctor's recommendations, and they were the ones that pointed out when Willow was born that Willow needed some cranial work, and she pointed me in the direction of Polly Wilkie up at Bondi Clare Clinic, and who also is a chiropractor, and I think Polly's also an osteo. So she's versed in two ways of healing, but it was just really practical, pragmatic, and result related. So I'm a really result related person as well. Like if I'm not seeing results, I kind of go, well, I didn't really see anything play out or any results, but it was very it was so obvious in front of my eyes what was going on and the differences that I was seeing that I started seeing them, and we all are going now. So yeah, we love it. We absolutely love it, and I think you have to find the right one.
Just like anything.
I do. I think anything like it. Someone can say I had a terrible job with this plumber and you won't go see them, but then you can hear about you had a great experience with this person and you go, well, I'm going to go see them.
Yeah.
It's Dr. Rosemary Keating.
Rosemary Keating. Wow. Yeah. And
Yeah, she's pretty
who's very well known within the chiropractic community for her work with pediatrics.
Oh my goodness, she's absolutely magnificent. She is. She's just a gem. She's a gem.
Yeah. I'm sure Rosemary Keating actually does lectures all over the country, if not all over the world in pediatrics. Yeah,
she does. So, and when you know someone, you walk in and you just feel safe in their arms. And I think that's such a great indication for anything we do, whether we see a doctor or a health coach or a naturopath or a chiropractor. Just if they're trying to guide you towards wellness, then you're in the right space because that's all you want. Like if you're around a friend that wants to belittle you and bring you down and pull you back to a space that keeps you limited and not being who you are, that's not your area to play in. Like, go towards the people who want to bring you towards the better version of you.
Yeah, that's great. It's so important to surround yourself with good people that bring out the best in you. That's great. And so you mentioned Helen's been an amazing friend. And what about Pete? What have you learnt from Pete working with him, Charlotte?
Well, let's face it, he's a gem in the kitchen. He's a good man. He's a really good man. So he was there when we were going through the big stuff with Willow, and he knew how important it was for the gut health, for Willow's guts to be improved, and for his wellness to improve as well. And he was really proactive in helping us team up with the right people, and he's a really kind man who wants the best for the world, and the way he delivers that message is through his platform, and he's.
Sorry, Shelley, just broke up there. Just repeat that last bit.
Well, I just said, he has his health and wellness platform where he encourages that, and it's amazing. He's very clear on, and he understands the relationship between the brain and the gut, and how food can make you feel a certain way, and what foods can inflame a negative response versus what foods that you can put into your body that encourage a really positive effect. And he's been great with that, and also connecting us with the right people. Like he connected me with Nora Gaudas, and he's amazing. And he's amazing that he even was brave enough to put out Bubba Yum Yum. And in a sense, we've all got to tip our hat to him, because I don't know anyone who'd be brave enough to put that book out, even though it was just a beautiful book. To put himself on the line like that, he's full of big stuff. He's great.
Yeah, no, it's an amazing effort, and hats off to him.
Yeah, absolutely, because everyone goes. Everyone's got their opinion and all this sort of stuff about labels and diets or whatever. The guy just wants people to get well and be well. And if that's what he wants, I can't say a bad word about him.
No, that's great. And you're being recorded as well, so you better not. Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing as well, isn't it, Charlotte? When you've got a mission and you know that you've got information that may benefit people, you know, you really don't care. You're just going to get it out, and there's going to be backlash. And of course, there was backlash with Bubba Yum Yum. I'm sure pretty much everyone listening, if you're in Australia and probably other parts of the world potentially, you know, you probably remember the backlash about this book that came out and the crazy headlines that were around it. And so, you know what? Who cares to that? It's a book about eating real food, getting back to foods that have been eaten by humans for thousands of years, that are proven to be beneficial for your health. And so, you know what? It doesn't really matter what people are saying. This is just good, real food, good health information that everyone should be doing.
Yeah, look, I just say take away the label and think about what our grandparents ate, and if they ate it, eat it.
That's right. And and the other thing as well with you know, quotation marks, paleo, and we've I've had the pleasure of speaking with Jack Wolfson, who, you know, is known as the paleo cardiologist. That's the title of his book, and he's a phenomenal guy, Jack. If you can connect with Jack, he's a legend. But you know, this term paleo, people obviously have connotations with, and they think of, you know, a caveman eating a big turkey. And of course, you know, you and I know that's not what it is all about. It's about eating real food, mostly vegetables, fruits, plant-based diet. We've got our meats, our seafoods, you know, pre-industrialized, you know, agricultural foods, basically. You know, so getting rid of the grains, you know, getting rid of the pasteurized dairy and all of that stuff. And I mean, and if you sit back and look at that, but how could anyone have an argument against that?
Yeah. Well, look, people argue for the sake of arguing, but I get it, Trent, like, and I'm with you. And it's really funny because I know that the title of it scares some people, but so I've dropped it so much from what I'm doing because I have to, as a mother, let other mothers know how great it can be and use the positive wording. So I really go by whole foods at the moment because if I can use that word, they just won't be scared or be resistant, and I can get the education through to them. Yeah. Because almost low inflammation and it's real food and it's whole foods, and they feel safer with that. So if they feel safer with that, then that's what I'll use. Just to be able to talk with them and coach with them and get them going to the markets and you know, using the real whole foods. But it's amazing what other terminology can, with media and everything, portray against it. But yeah, we're after, you know, foods that make you feel good, foods that you can thrive on, colourful food, and eat mainly vegetables. And then the rest is, you know, a bonus and a byproduct of well-sourced, ethically sourced, great source protein and a great amount of fats to make your brain feel good. And that's kind of the essence of really good health. And it's wonderful when you find a team around you that support that as well, because it makes it all very easy.
Yeah, love it. Yeah. So just a couple of practical tips to finish up. Charlotte, what are two things that mums and dads should really, you know, definitely almost cut out from a child's nutrition?
Let's reword it and say, what can they mainly eat? Parents hate being told what they can't do. Can I reword it? Can I be cheeky enough to say let's reword it and let's say what they can put in, the two main things?
You can reword it.
Sorry, I just know my audience and I'll just be like, I can do that. Cook up a broth every week or a stock and add it into your food as you're cooking it throughout the week. So they're getting all those added nutrients and minerals that they weren't expecting to get. They don't know they're getting it. It's like a camouflage job, and you're a superhero, and they're just, they're doing the job for you, which is just amazing. And then try and add in some fermented foods where you can. And if they're not buying the fact that they don't like the saltiness or the activeness of the foods, use the juice from the foods to add on to their meats or their proteins or their salads that they like, and change their taste buds. Because slowly, by adding those things in, you can change the gut dysbiosis or the situation that's going on in their gut, and keep adding in the good things. Oh, and if there's one more thing I can add, I would definitely head onto my website and have a look at the cultures that I'm using at the moment, because they are the best I've ever used. I've used cultures with Willow for 3 years, and his guts have never been this brilliant, and his immune system is stronger than it's ever been.
And Charlotte, just for our listeners who might not identify exactly with cultures, you're talking about kimchi or sauerkraut, something like this, like a fermented vegetable?
Yogurt bacteria that I've been getting from South Australia, sent over in the mail on ice, and they are brilliant. And the information's on my webpage, but they are so good, and it's been one of the biggest differences I've seen with Willow's guts. And they're through Culture Wellness, and they're so good. So I'd be looking at adding those 3 things in, and be kind on yourself, and just think. You could try and just be gentle with the packets. Like, don't say don't. I hate the word don't with my clients. Like, don't put packet food in their life, because I understand that we're in a moving society and we're all very used to them. I'd be more so inclined to say, tonight I'm going to cook with broth, and today I'm going to add in some fermented foods, or I'm going to hide in some yogurt in their smoothies or their ice creams, and then slowly educate them as food, as energy, and showing them what food is and why it's good for their body. Going to the markets is one thing that you can do every weekend after a sporting activity or before a sporting activity, and give them the money, the pocket money, and say, you go get the best value you can get from the bananas, or go to the avocado man. And I'm installing all that with Willow right now. He owns that market in Noosa right now. Everyone knows it. And you know what, Trent? It's really clever. He knows the salmon guy, the fish guys, the avocado guys, and they're all like, hey, Wills, how you going? And it's creating an idea of responsibility with money and exchange, and how he just has an appreciation for it. It's very, I'm loving what we're doing with that.
That's great. And that's the other thing with, going back to quote unquote paleo living. It's not a diet, is it? It's really a whole lifestyle. Like, if you're going paleo, it is about getting back into the markets, and it is about, not shopping at Coles or Woolies, etc. And of course you can have times, and for me in the last month or so, we've struggled to get to the market. I've taken on extra work loads in certain areas, and we've been running seminars and things like that, and sometimes life gets in the way, but you do your best. But if you want to really transform the life and the health of yourself and your family and your kids, you really need to start looking at getting out of the traditional way of shopping and eating and engaging with people, and it's this holistic approach to how you live your life, not just what food you put in your mouth. Would you agree with that?
100%. I agree with it wholeheartedly. And I think also the other thing I've got to say to mums out there that are listening, or dads that are perhaps in another part of their life where they're feeding their children other things, then that's okay. That's where you're at. And it's too extreme to go from there to green smoothies. Mm-hmm. You've just got to find your way in. Just find out something that you can do that can just take you towards that next step, and gently go there, because children can't be pushed too hard. You've got to just guide them really gently and get them there. So be gentle in your approach. Reach out to people in your area, or health coaches, or your practitioners, or whoever it can be, or your auntie or uncle, whoever's going to be around, where you can make food this event and get back to when, we've got so many cultures in our lives that have always made food a celebration and food as an event. Well, we can make going to our markets an event, a family adventure where we all get really pragmatic and get to know where we can get certain things from and make it something really special.
Yeah, great. Yeah, and I love your approach there, Charlotte, with the things that you can add in. Because, I mean, at the end of the day, it's actually much more important to add in the good things into your diet than just take away the bad things. Because at least if you're adding in stuff that is like nutrient rich, that's got the minerals and the vitamins in them, that's what your body's going to help, assimilate and use to, remove toxins better and, boost the immune system and improve your nervous system function to help your body work better from the inside out, as opposed to just removing, the wheat and the sugar and the pasteurized dairy, which, all that stuff tastes delicious. Like, that sucks having to just remove that. So, I think the first step to add in the good stuff first, and then, all that bad stuff will eventually start to creep out slowly.
Yeah, like, Trent, our bodies are as you would know more than anyone, are the most intelligent computer in the world. Like, they are they are incredible. And when you start giving it what it needs and putting in the good stuff, you'll start ignoring the bad stuff and go, well, I don't need that anymore. I'm not gonna do that, because all of a sudden this body that has just been surviving kind of becomes a temple, or you worship it and you start shifting your kind of, headspace around that. And children certainly do really quickly. Like, Willow ran up to me the other day. I was explaining to him about, and it's quite an intense conversation to have with a child that's only 3, but I was explaining about something that's sprayed and something that's not. And wasn't telling him not to have this thing that was sprayed, but I said, hey, listen, I would prefer it if you had this one because it hasn't got this and this on it, and that one's better for your brain, and this one's not as good for your body. And he said, okay, I'm going to have this one. And he's picked it up and walked away, and he got it. And there was no other conversation around it. And then we were in the shop the other day, goes, hey, Mum, is this sprayed? and I'm not trying to create anything bad there, but it's just an education around let's just go to the guys that we know at the farms that don't spray on it, because it's not good for his body because he can't process it. Other people might have a different experience with that. I'm not labeling it. I'm not saying that they shouldn't do that. But for my little boy, I know that that's better for him. And that's certainly been a great, we're all learning so much, and we're continually learning as a family and working out what's right for us. And I think that's really important too for anyone that's listening. It's a continual learning experience with food and health and wellness and mindfulness and all that sort of stuff. You just continually learn.
Yeah. And you can only do with what you know, and we're all doing our best to be the best parents that we can be.
Totally.
And we can only move forward from where we are. So, if you are listening and you're like, oh my God, like there's no way I could possibly go paleo. My kids aren't going to eat that. Just do, take a couple of points from what Charlotte was saying. Hey, add in, 1 or 2 good things into their diet. Sneak in some bone broth. Sneak in some yogurt into their ice cream. They're not even going to know.
Make it fun, and another thing, Trent, I can't be without my morning smoothies for Willow. I literally get berries in there, coconut creams, yogurt, any probiotics that he needs to take, kefir, and he smashes it. He loves it. A banana, he gets a big banana or mango or half an avocado, whatever's in season. He thinks it's Christmas and smashes it. He does not need to eat until 1 o'clock in the daytime. And, he has to, if he's at daycare, he's got to have a snack, and he finds it really funny. He's like, I'm just full. And they always think he's just not eating a lot. But he has got that morning start to his life is changed. He's until lunchtime, he's flying. Like, there's no need for anything else.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So, Charlotte, how do people get the book? I know you mentioned earlier about ordering the hard copy from America, but if they want to get their hands on the amazing Bubba Yum Yum book and the 88 brilliant recipes and all the brilliant information on prenatal care and getting your body ready for pregnancy and stuff for dads, where do they find that? What's the site they should go to? Can they get it on Amazon? Where's the best place to go?
If they go to bubbayumyum.com, BUBBAYUMYUM, bubbayumyum.com, there is a section on my website where it says available now in print. I'm looking at it now, making sure I'm telling the truth, and digital formats, and all the links to all the copies are on there.
Great. So bubbayumyum.com, and we'll provide links for this in the show notes and on the blog page, and I'm sure we'll put it on Facebook. But Charlotte, this has been an amazing interview. I loved where we went with that conversation. I got so much out of it, and I can't wait to chat more with you. Is there anything you'd like to add finally to the interview?
Look, I've enjoyed it as much as you have. Honestly, it's been great to chat. Be gentle on yourself. Be kind to yourself. Being a parent has its ups and downs, and food is just one part of it. So don't stress out too much. Be kind and be gentle to yourselves, and keep loving those little cherubs, because that's really the most important ingredient of their lives.
Fantastic. I love it, Charlotte. Thank you so much. Love your work. Keep soldiering on and pushing the message. My hat's off to you and Helen and Pete for all the work that you guys did to get this book up and running and out there. And I'm going to order mine hard copy. I don't care what it costs to post over here.
Hopefully it'll be changed soon. We're in chat to the distributor, so hopefully it'll be here soon.
Nice. Thanks again, Charlotte.
Cheers.
Thanks for listening. Dr. Trent Headlam is the Innate Doctor. If you enjoyed this episode, please rate and subscribe to us on iTunes. And for heaps more life-changing stuff, go to www.theinnatedoctor.com. Join Dr. Trent at the next episode. Have fun getting healthy.